He beds down with his anvil like a bride. The man's lost his mind. I tell you, the man's not right. Who chooses a bed of coals over a good feather mattress?
Maybe he's wetted his work. No woman would have a man covered in soot.
Or he's just too cheap to buy firewood like the rest of us.
In the smithy, Andrew Hawk raked the glowing coals, banking them for the night.
Stone remembers fire. It will give back what I feed it.
His dog sighed and curled on the hearth, close enough to feel the heat without scorching its fur. Andrew spread his blanket on the straw pallet beside the anvil, where the floor still held the day's warmth. Outside, frost crept across the windows, but the orange glow within burned steady, a lone heartbeat in the freezing dark. In the tavern, they called him a fool, but in the smithy, a man and his dog slept warm. The next morning, Andrew loaded a repaired plow blade onto his cart and headed into town, his breath misting in the still air.
Look, there goes the anvil-married blacksmith. Did you sleep well, Andrew, or did the coals keep you too warm?
Words are cheap. The cold doesn't listen to them.
A farmer he had done work for months stopped him at the cart, pointing at the blade with a shake of his head. He said, "A man who sleeps in a forge can't be trusted with good steel. Take it back."
So now my work is poison. Even the steel bears my shame.
He carried the refused plow back to the smithy and dropped it beside the door, the sound echoing off the frozen ground.
At least you don't mock me. You just want warmth and a full belly. The fire never judges. It only asks to be fed. I understand that.
As the day waned, the sky grew heavy with a stillness that promised hard cold. Andrew banked the forge early, as if some instinct warned him what the night would bring. An old farmer looked at the sky and muttered, "I've not seen a sky like that in 30 winters." Andrew spent the afternoon boarding the drafty window and stacking coal high enough for 3 nights.
The cold is coming like a slow predator. You don't fight it, you outlast it.
At the Croft cabin, Martha's youngest pressed bare feet against the frozen floor and whimpered. Martha wrapped another blanket around the child, but her own breath was visible inside the house.
This winter will take more than prayers to survive. I feel it in my bones.
Andrew finished banking the coals. The forge pulsed with low, steady heat, radiating into the stone walls. Outside, the wind died. A heavy stillness settled over the valley, pressing down like a held breath.
Time to settle in, boy. That sky isn't finished with us yet.
Far in the distance, the first white drifts began to form beneath a blackening sky. By midnight, the thermometer outside the general store read -30. The air itself felt like broken glass. Inside the cabins, ice formed on the inside of windows, and breath crystallized in the air.
Cover your faces, children. Don't let the cold steal your breath while you sleep.
In the smithy, Andrew stirred, the stone floor warm beneath his feet. He added fresh coal to the banked embers.
The stone is still giving back the fire, just as I taught it.
He moved to the window and looked out into the black. The cold had teeth tonight. Then, piercing the silence, came 3 frantic knocks on the door. Andrew stiffened.
They wouldn't come here unless they were desperate, but I know their desperation. It never lasts.
The knocking grew louder, then faltered, then stopped altogether, swallowed by the howl of the wind. Andrew did not move. Outside, the town froze in its beds, but a wall of silence stood between them and the blacksmith's glowing hearth. At his store, Thomas stared into the coal bin, empty. He slammed the lid, his breath a sharp white plume.
Sold out. Every last sack. And not a coal cart running until spring.
At the Croft cabin, a loud crack split the air as Martha's stove casting gave way, smoke belching into the room.
Get back. Cover your mouths with the blanket.
A child's wail cut through the frozen air, reaching even the thick stone walls of the smithy.
That sound. I know that sound. It's the same one that came from my own throat the night we lost her.
Andrew moved to the window. Across the snow, black smoke billowed from the Croft chimney. The stove was dead.
The cold doesn't care who it takes. It never did.
His dog whined, pressing its nose into his palm. Andrew did not move toward the door. The wailing outside did not stop. It grew thinner, more desperate. But the smithy door remained shut. Caleb Finch stumbled through the snow, his limbs stiff as frozen wood, his knuckles rapped weakly against the smithy door.
Mr. Hawk, I am sorry for what I said. Please, my mother's hands are turning blue.
You mocked me with the rest of them. Your tongue was sharp enough then. Why should I care now?
I was a fool. I was trying to make them laugh. I didn't think. Please, my little brother can't stop shivering.
His hands, they're bare. He didn't even stop for gloves. That's not pride. That's panic.
Andrew didn't answer. He opened the door wider and stepped aside, letting the young man stumble into the orange glow. Caleb stood shivering, not daring to move closer to the forge. Andrew turned away, picked up a length of iron rod, and thrust it into the coals.
Here. Don't hold the end I heated unless you want another lesson in pain.
Caleb wrapped his frozen fingers around the warm metal, and a shudder went through him, not of cold, but of relief.
The first one through the door. There will be more. I need to decide now what I am willing to give.
Word spread like frost. Soon, more figures stumbled through the snow to the smithy door.
I never thought I'd beg a man I mocked, but my little ones are freezing.
I let you in, but you'll keep your sharp tongue still.
She pushed her children forward, and Andrew stepped aside. The smithy began to fill with shivering bodies.
The coal is vanishing faster than I can feed it. Warmth from many is a far hungrier beast.
He looked at the dwindling pile, then at the huddled families. The equation had changed.
They need more than a warm room. They need working stoves to go back to.
The forge could only give so much. Beyond these walls, the cold was still winning.
I'll have to forge parts. Dampers, grates, joints, more fuel, more work. But the alternative is worse.
Andrew threw another shovel of coal into the fire. The decision was made. Now he had to find the strength. Andrew pulled a flat bar of iron from the forge, the metal glowing the color of a dying sun. His hammer fell in a steady rhythm, each strike shaping a damper arm from memory.
This damper will fix your stove, Martha. Go fit it before it cools.
Why? After all we said, you could have just let us freeze.
Because I can, and because I've been where you are with nothing but a cold hearth and empty hands. The work keeps the past at bay. As long as the hammer falls, I don't have to remember.
He moved from dampers to pipe joints, his movements efficient, almost automatic. The years of solitude now an armor. Caleb brought him water. Martha fed the fire. The smithy became a quiet engine of survival.
Keep the forge fed. I am not stopping until every stove in this settlement burns again.
Outside the window, the blizzard clawed at the glass, but inside, the anvil sang a stubborn rhythm of hope. The smithy door crashed open, a gust of frozen air snuffing the candle. Thomas stumbled in, coat singed, eyes wild.
Fire. The Wilson place, the stove went up. I got the family out, but the boy's arm is burned bad.
Bring them here, now.
They carried in the coughing family, the child's sleeve still smoking, his arm red and raw. Andrew grabbed a cold iron rod from the quench bucket and pressed it gently against the burn. The cold metal siphoned the fire.
Hold still. The cold iron will take the fire. It's the same as treating a brand.
He cut away burnt cloth and wrapped the arm with a strip of leather torn from his own apron.
Martha, tear more strips for bandages. Caleb, fetch water. Thomas, keep everyone calm.
The child's cries softened to whimpers. Andrew turned back to the forge, his hands steady but eyes betraying exhaustion. There was no time to rest. The cold and fire were two faces of the same enemy, and the night was far from over.
Hawk, this arrangement of yours, sleeping in a forge, it's madness. Why here, of all places?
Andrew didn't answer. He picked up a soot-blackened stone from the hearth ledge and turned to face Thomas.
You mocked me for sleeping beside the fire, but the fire has been sleeping beside me all along, in these stones.
He pressed the stone into Thomas's hands. It was warm, almost alive, radiating a steady, patient heat.
After all this time, with no flame near it, the stone is still warm. How?
Stone remembers fire. It soaks into the cracks and gives it back slow. The forge builds a heat battery. That's why my bed is here. My wife died in a cold like this. I swore I'd never freeze again.
Thomas could feel the warmth spreading through his palms. It was more than just heat. It was a lesson hard learned. Andrew turned back to the forge, his hammer raised. The stone had spoken for him. In that moment, the mocked blacksmith wasn't a fool. He was a survivor who had built a fortress against the very cold, now trying to kill them all. Martha pulled away from the huddled groups and stood before Andrew, her hands twisting in her apron.
I said terrible things because I was scared of losing them, like I lost my first. I'm sorry.
I know about loss. I don't need sorries. I need you to keep your fire fed, your children warm.
He turned back to the forge and pulled a fresh bar of iron, the heat washing over his exhausted face.
This grate will fit your stove. Don't let it warp. Feed it slow wood.
I'll go. The woodpile won't last the night unless we bring more. Who will come with me?
3 men pulled on frozen boots and followed Caleb into the blizzard. The women began redistributing blankets to the coldest children.
He could have let us freeze. Instead, he's forging our survival with his own 2 hands.
The smithy hummed with a new rhythm, the clang of iron, the hiss of leather bellows, the murmur of a community no longer just surviving, but working together.
Maybe this is what the forge was always meant to do. Not just heat one man, but a whole settlement.
The coal pile was a fist-sized mound. Andrew stared at it, then at the faces huddled in the dimming glow.
The forge won't burn on prayers. I can make sled runners so you can haul timber, but I'll burn the last coal to do it.
The words hung heavy. To use the last coal meant killing the forge's heat entirely, betting everything on a desperate run.
I'll go. I owe you that much, Mr. Hawk.
You owe me nothing. But if you bring back wood, you'll owe yourself something worth keeping.
Andrew pumped the bellows one last time. The coals blazed white as he hammered the steel into 2 long runners. With each strike, the fire faded. When the runners were quenched, the forge was a bed of dying embers. Caleb and 3 men strapped the runners onto a makeshift sled and vanished into the white. Andrew stood at the open door, the cold flooding in, and watched them disappear. The smithy behind him grew still.
If they don't return, the cold won't need to kill us. We've killed ourselves.
The door burst open. A sled piled with frozen timber slid inside, covered in frost. Caleb collapsed face first into the snow-dusted floor. Andrew caught him before his head hit the anvil. The boy was ice cold, but his chest still rose.
Don't you dare die on me now, not after bringing back a forest.
He pulled the timber close and tore off the bark with numb hands, throwing the dry heartwood onto the embers.
Come on, old friend. Remember.
A tongue of flame licked up the wood. The forge coughed smoke, then roared back to life, orange light flooding the smithy. Andrew's hands trembled violently as he fed more wood. The heat came, but so did the shaking.
My body is failing, but the forge won't.
The smithy brightened. People pressed closer, but Andrew's face was pale beneath the soot. He leaned heavily against the anvil. The fire was alive, a stubborn heart beating in the frozen night. But the man who had restarted it was running on nothing but will. Thomas pushed through the crowd and stopped before Andrew, his face a mask of shame.
I called you a madman, but I am the one who's been mad. Jealous that you needed no one, while I need everyone.
Jealousy? That's what drove you to mock a man for staying warm.
I was scared you were stronger alone than I am, with all my coin and goods. It ate at me.
My wife froze in a cabin, just like yours, Thomas. I couldn't save her. Maybe I am trying to save her now.
Thomas crumpled. The weight of what he'd done struck him. Martha stepped forward and laid a hand on his shoulder.
I don't need your tears. I need you to keep the fire going.
Thomas nodded, unable to speak. The smithy fell into a heavy, respectful silence.
The ice in me is melting. I didn't know it could.
Outside, the blizzard howled, but inside, a different kind of thaw had begun. A deep groan cut through the smithy. Wood bending under tons of snow. Dust sifted from the beams.
The roof, it's going to give.
Out of my way. I know that roof.
Andrew shoved through the crowd and climbed the frozen ladder outside, the blizzard swallowing his shape. On the roof, he swung a flat shovel with frantic strength, throwing great slabs of snow over the edge. The groaning stopped. Then, with a crack, Andrew's boots slid on hidden ice. He tumbled off the edge into the drift below. Thomas and Caleb were already plunging through the snow, dragging him out, his head bleeding darkly against the white. They carried him inside, laying him on his own straw pallet near the forge. The fire spat and threw long shadows.
Easy, Andrew. You saved our roof, now let us save you.
Andrew didn't answer. The smithy was safe, but the blacksmith lay still, his chest barely rising, the fire the only motion in the room. Andrew's eyes opened to the blurred orange world of the smithy. Martha sat beside him, pressing a cold cloth to the gash on his forehead.
Easy, Andrew. You are not leaving that bed. We'll keep the forge alive. You taught us how.
Don't let the stone get cold. It's the stone that holds the heat, not the flame.
He tried to rise, but his body refused. Martha gently pushed him back, her expression tight with concern. Caleb knelt by the dog, pouring a sack of grain into its bowl. The animal nuzzled his hand before eating. Thomas, wordless, carried a bucket to the quench trough and filled it, his usual arrogance replaced by a quiet diligence.
They're learning. The forge isn't mine anymore. It belongs to whoever's cold.
You've been carrying us alone for years, Andrew. Rest now. Let us carry you for a change.
Andrew let his head fall back onto the straw. For the first time in a decade, he felt the burden of survival split among other hands. The blizzard clawed at the windows, but inside, the fire burned steady, fed by the very hands that had once mocked its keeper. The wind outside slowed to a whisper, then stopped. Through the frosted window, a pale light crept across the floor. A small hand tugged at Andrew's blanket. Martha's youngest pointed at the glass. "Look, Mr. Hawk, the sun."
The sun remembers us.
The dog barked and scrambled to the door, tail wagging furiously. Thomas and Caleb helped Andrew to his feet, his arm draped across their shoulders. They led him to the open door. Outside, the world was blinding white, but the sky held a faint, hopeful blue. Andrew leaned against the frame, his gaze moving over the snow-covered cabins. He said nothing, but his eyes held a deep, quiet peace. One by one, the others came out, blinking in the light, their breath no longer a frozen cloud.
We're still here, Andrew, because of you.
He didn't answer, but the faint upward curve of his mouth said what words could not. The days that followed brought a procession to the smithy, not for repairs, but to leave offerings at the door.
It's not much, but it's hot. You need strength, not just iron.
Andrew accepted the bowl. His hands were still weak, but the warmth of the clay steadied them.
Someone must have used their last hide for this apron.
He traced the stitches with a soot-blackened finger. Beneath the apron lay a folded slip of paper. The note read, "I'll say it in front of everyone. You've earned that, Thomas."
He didn't have to write it down, but I suppose some words need to be held in ink before they can be spoken.
He set the note on the anvil, its words facing outward, then broke off a piece of bread and fed it to his dog. The smithy felt different now, not just warm, but inhabited. The silence had finally become a home. Andrew leaned back against the warm stone and closed his eyes, the weight of years lifting inch by inch. The village square filled under a clean blue sky, the snow-packed ground trammeled by the boots of the survivors. Thomas Beckwith stepped onto the low stone platform, his face pale but set, and the murmur died.
I mocked you, Andrew, because I was scared. Scared you were stronger alone than I am with everyone. You saved us, not just with your forge, with your stubbornness. I am sorry.
The silence that followed was heavy, not with judgment, but with the weight of an overdue debt.
I just wanted a warm place to sleep. I am glad it could hold more. It's done. The forge doesn't hold a grudge. Neither will I.
The applause began as a hesitant patter, then swelled, rough hands slapping together in the crisp air. Thomas extended his hand. Andrew's soot-stained fingers closed around it, the grip firm and brief. Overhead, the weak winter sun climbed higher, and for the first time in that frozen settlement, the only sound was the warmth of people together. The smithy door stayed open most days now. People came not just for repairs, but for the warmth of the fire and the quiet company. A farmer he had once trusted for work set a steaming pot on the anvil's edge. No rush on the plow, Andrew. Just wanted to share some coffee.
Coffee in the smithy. Never thought I'd see the day.
He drank it hot and black, the bitterness a strange comfort.
It's still my forge, but it's not just mine anymore. It belongs to whoever needs it.
A communal woodpile grew beside the coal bin, kept stocked by the hands he'd saved. He still slept beside the banked coals, but no one laughed. It was simply how the blacksmith lived.
They understand now, not just the fire, but the man who tends it.
The dog yawned, stretching its legs before settling deeper into the warm hearth. And when the sun set, the orange glow of the smithy was the surest beacon in the settlement. They had mocked him for sleeping beside his forge. They called him Anvil Married and a fool. But when the bunny 30-degree night froze the cabins, it was that very forge that kept their world from freezing solid. The heat battery he'd built in his stone walls, the bed he'd made beside the embers, those were never madness. They were memory, forged into survival. Andrew Hawk didn't save his neighbors with grand speeches. He saved them with a hammer, a hot anvil, and a quiet decision to open his door. He charged them nothing except an apology, and that they gave freely. In the end, the forge remembered everything, and so did the town. The man they'd mocked had built, without meaning to, the warmest and most essential building in the settlement. And on the coldest nights, when the wind screamed and the mercury fell, the orange glow in the smithy window still beat like a heart that refused to stop. Andrew Hawk slept beside his forge, as he always had. But he was no longer alone, and the village, once so cold, had learned that some fires are kept alive, not by wood, but by the stubbornness of a good man. Dusk gave way to a deep blue night, the snow reflecting the last light. The smithy sat silent under the stars, its frosted windows spilling warm gold into the dark. Inside, the forge had settled to a bed of crimson embers, their glow soft and ancient. Andrew crouched beside his dog, his heavy hand stroking the fur in slow, even passes. The dog let out a contented sigh, its tail giving one final thump before going still. A single ember popped, sending a tiny swirl of sparks upward before fading. The shadows in the corners seemed to breathe, then settled into a peaceful darkness. Beyond the walls, no wind stirred. The world held its breath, finally at rest. Through the ice-frosted window, the smithy's glow was now just a faint, warm pulse. Fade to black. Only the sound of a crackling fire remained, and then silence.